into the unknown. Have you ever done it? Have you ever moved into something that you weren't familiar with? Whether it was relocating house-wise or even just going for a visit somewhere and you're moving into the unknown for that period of time. And there's certain things that come up when you move into the unknown. And so today what I thought would be amazing would be for the first time ever to actually go a little deeper in that. Like, what do you think when you're moving into the unknown? What do you feel? And what is going through your head? What are you looking for? Where do you need help and where don't you need help? So I have amazing guests with me today. Ron.
She's talking about me.
Guests. Bonnie and Ron, or Ron and Bonnie. So neither one of them feels like I am elevating the other.
Aww.
I know, isn't that great? Equality. Equality is a great thing.
It is.
And so making a move when you don't know the city you're moving to has dynamic of its own that is unique.
It does.
Right? And even if you're thinking, well, that's not really me. I'm actually going to stay in the city I'm already familiar with. Many of the things that we chat about today will actually still reflect or some of what you're experiencing as well. So it's not only for somebody that's moving into the other known, and yet we're going to hit specific things that are unique to somebody moving into the unknown. And so I'm Yetta Decker, and this is the Inside Track on Real Estate, where we playfully, powerfully, and purposefully move forward together, giving you insights that you can't necessarily, candid insights that you necessarily can't get just anywhere. Wouldn't you agree?
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Here we go. Because we already did this show before the show.
Yeah, we
because
did,
as we
basically.
started chatting about it, the idea started going. And so what I had to say was, whoa, let's wait until we get a chance to talk to you, because we'll forget what we talked about.
That's right.
Or we'll either do something twice or do something not at all, and we don't want to not do something at all. So, Ron and Bonnie, let's just get into this.
Right on.
And we'll let you choose who has the best answer. This will be fun to watch, because when I helped Ron and Bonnie buy a house, there was a little competition, we might say. And so it continues.
It continues.
Yeah, our whole marriage is like that. It's awesome.
I know, it is awesome. And I think part of making a move when you're moving into the unknown, everything is a little more elevated.
Yeah. There's a lot of anxiety with that. There's a lot of, what do we do? Where are we going? What about our family? What about our workplace? And I can honestly say that your team really squashed all of that for us.
Squash that.
Well, they get the anxiety that we felt.
Squash the anxiety.
Right? Squash
Okay,
the
thank
anxiety.
you.
Because I remember the first time I contacted you, it was email.
Right.
And because if you remember Tom and Tara Almendinger.
Of course I do.
They recommended you to me.
Right.
And Bonnie and I were being posted from Camp Borden to Ottawa. And I was like, okay, I got to get a real estate agent. We got to figure out, because we want to buy a house. Where are we going to live? What's in Ottawa? What does it offer? Blah, blah, blah. That's when the anxiety starts, because you mentioned something. So people are going to be watching this, and you, I was told to look at the camera, are going to be, you may just be moving from Orleans to Canada, but you're moving from one demographic to another. Right. So therefore, the amenities that are offered and very comfortable with in Orleans, well, what do I have in Canada? Because it's a different dynamic. So now imagine that moving from another city. Now, what Yetta didn't say is Bonnie and I were both members of the RCAF. And so we've moved quite a bit.
What is that?
The Royal Canadian Air Force. The Royal Canadian Air Force.
Thank you.
And we've moved several times. The first move was actually pretty easy, because it was young Bonnie, young Ron, posted from Bagotville to Cold Lake, Alberta, Bagotville, Quebec. No kids, no dogs, nothing. And back in those days, the RCAF took care of all the details. They hired the movers. They did everything. And there was nothing I had to do to buy a house, because we were going to Cold Lake and it was just a young couple. So we did everything ourselves, and it was very easy. I don't even think there was a real estate agent involved.
When we went to Cold Lake?
Yeah, because
there was.
There was, that's right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a very memorable experience, apparently. So
yeah, there was. Oh, yeah,
I guess there had to be, because the girl we bought from, Carol, she had a real estate agent, but there was no real anxiety, because it was just us. So our next move from Cold Lake to Borden, Ontario, there was anxiety, but we weren't buying a house. We went into quarters because we were only supposed to be there for a couple of years. Ended up being 6. We should have bought a house. Hindsight's 2020. So what we did is we put money away to buy a house.
Right.
So when we got posted here, guess what? Anxiety. Oh my God, what do we do? So
Well, and for you, that was really your first move that had extra,
family, daughters,
right?
responsibilities,
Schools to
parents.
consider, the right area for the girls to grow up in,
Doctors,
the right community.
dentists, community.
A lot more to consider.
And you hadn't lived in Ottawa before.
No,
Never.
never.
So the questions, and I'm just going back to that day when we first connected in that journey, is some of the questions were around what part of the city
Yeah.
do you even want to live in? So you may be asking yourself, even if you live locally, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube, because you could go to the Decker Team channel on YouTube and find over 300 archive shows around everything to do with living in a home. Even if you're renting or if you want to be a landlord, investing, pretty much anything to do with house or home will be there, including service providers and electricians and maintenance and you name it. It's not just a show around buying and selling real estate. It's a show about living in your home. And so in doing that, one of the very first things that was a big deal for Ron and Bonnie, and maybe for you when you're relocating, is where do I actually want to live in the city? I mean, Ottawa's over 1 million people. Maybe you're relocating from Ottawa to somewhere else, and you're asking those same questions about the city you're going to. So to have somebody, and I recall you talking to me about this, having somebody that actually has a scope of understanding across the city was vital.
Yep, it was. And well, I've said this many times, what really impressed me was you came back with a list, I think it was 5 questions. And from those 5 questions, you started building our profile. And you knew that I did not like cramped entryways. You knew that Bonnie wanted a kitchen because she loves to cook. And you built our whole profile around that. But also you knew we had 2 daughters. They were going to middle school. They needed a school with relatively, a proximity, etc. But we didn't want big city living. We wanted small town living. But we were willing to settle for big city living if that's all we could get. But it was.
So asking questions.
Asking questions. You asked us questions and built us a profile. And believe it or not, just by you asking those questions and taking an interest in us kind of lowered the anxiety levels. Because I remember Bonnie and I had when we were coming here to meet you for the first time, that was pretty amazing. Because Bonnie was, you were on course.
I was on a course.
She was on a course and was here for the weekend, and I drove down with the girls. And it was very short and sweet.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't our official, as we call it in the military, house hunting trip. But we came down and we connected with you ahead of time.
Yep.
And you showed us a couple of areas of the city, a couple of houses, what was available here. So that kind of actually opened up our minds as well. And that helped. That was a great help. And then I went back to, of course, Bonnie
Stayed on course.
And I went back to Barrie with the kids. And I was thinking all the way back that, you know what, I think we're okay. We have somebody who's got our best. It's the first time I've ever felt that way involved with a move. I've got somebody who has our self-interest at heart and not just their own. Because I'm sorry, I always had, and the reason I'm apologizing is I always had this view of real estate agents like used car salesmen. They're there to make the money, turn a house, make a buck. That's it. But that is not the case with your team.
Thank you.
You really care about your clients.
Well,
and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, well, we wouldn't be here, would we?
No, you wouldn't be here connecting with you.
Exactly.
And the reason they're connecting with you is because me sharing the story is, right? It's only of so much value. Whereas if you can hear it from the voice of somebody that truly has had the experience and really, even though they've only had one move here, what's really cool is the number of people you have introduced to us.
The referrals. Yeah.
The introductions to other people, both staying in the city and moving within the city, moving to the city and moving out of the city. Who
have had amazing experiences with your team. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is.
Eh?
It is. And, for me, and I'll give you a little behind the black curtain. When I first started in the real estate industry, my love was for the client. I mean, I loved helping people. It was just kind of a natural. Houses are just the product. So that's actually not what jazzes me, even though I like houses. It's the people that I love. And so when I started in the industry, that is where I started. And then quickly, though, I fell into a trap of losing sight of that because I was going through a messy time in my life. And so my focus became how to earn enough money to leave my husband. I mean, that's unfortunate and true. And yet that didn't happen. Somebody gave me a wake-up call and told me that clients could tell that I had become focused on the almighty dollar, even if it was for a reason like making enough money so I could leave somebody. And in that process, when I got that wake-up call, it was like somebody stabbed me in the heart. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you don't even know that you've transitioned in your belief system, and then all of a sudden, there you are, behaving in a way that's really incongruent with you. Well, that's where I found myself. So in that moment, I decided that the money would never be in my periphery again, that the focus would 100% be back on the client, serve the client, care for them, care for their best interest, and ultimately, out of that, I get taken care of. So I don't even have to think about me. I actually get to think about the client. And I did go on a journey of self-discovery and surrendered my life. And now Ken and I have been married 36 years, just about. So life is good. And yet I don't know that I ever would have let go of that attachment that had come around money if somebody hadn't given me a wake-up call. So sometimes it takes a wake-up call. So like it comes, that's behind the black curtain, and I don't know if I ought to share that with you. However, it's the truth. It's the journey. And so when Ron's saying it, it actually hits a chord in me because I know it's true. I know it's not just a thing a front that I can put up, because it really is so heartfelt that I just want for you to have the right place to live, the right place that you can turn a house into a home, the right place that kids can grow up and feel safe and secure in, the right place that's a good investment, the right place that actually is a solid property to own. So you buy right so that when you do go to sell, if you go to sell, you're selling right because you took care of it on the front end, that you don't find nasty surprises a year, 6 months, 3 years later, because we hire great inspectors, because you've got the opportunity to do your due diligence. And that stuff actually matters. Because for most people, their house is their largest single investment. And then investment properties, now that's a whole wealth building thing. And now I get all happy and giddy around that because then I just see good decisions being made. Anyway, sorry, that was not part of the plan. And yet I think it would have been remiss not to share the truth of why the entire team is so committed to serving you, serving the client, and truly, because we all say take client's best interest at heart. It's just such a nice thing to say, except boy, is it heartfelt, gut felt, head felt, like it's everything in our being because of where we came from. Yeah. Because of where I came from.
It's funny because I was just sitting here remembering the conversation Bonnie and I had in the hotel after we had first met you. And you first of all, you set our expectations. You said, what are your expectations? We gave you our expectations. And then she said, well, you're going to have to come up a little bit in what you're looking for. This is Ottawa. So to meet your expectations, you may have to come up financially a little bit. I knew we could do it, but of course, I'm going to spend what I'm going to spend, get a house. But no, I had to realize. But I remember sitting in the hotel that night. We were sitting at the Novotel. I remember sitting in the hotel, and I looked at Bonnie and said, well, what do you think? And Bonnie says, I don't know. There's something about her. I just connected with her, and I trust her. So, yeah, we'll keep her. I said, okay.
Yeah, so you completely took the word unknown out of our vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say more about that.
We felt that we could trust in you and that you did have our best interests at heart and that you were there for us. And it wasn't oh yeah, she's speaking out, or, we knew that you were sincere. It's who you are. It's the unknown was gone.
That's good. So if you don't want unknown, then it really is just about asking clarifying questions. And one thing I've learned is it's not always comfortable having somebody dig deep into your thinking, into your feeling. It wasn't always comfortable, was it?
Yeah.
No.
But by doing
and
so, you knew exactly what we wanted. Those questions were crucial into us first trusting you and then meeting our needs and our expectations, or over
actually,
achieving.
our expectations were completely met.
Yeah.
Actually, they were better than met, because once you said, you showed us that one house in Orleans, and I looked at the backyard and I went, nice house, but not a chance. Not going to happen. And then you said, you know what? There's this little town out east of here called Embrun, and I want you guys to see it. It's a little far, but I want you guys to see it. And that's where we ended up settling, in Embrun, because we just connected with the town immediately, because that's exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
But yet I knew this from showing us various houses and knocking off. And your system, I hope you still use it. It's called the 3-house system. And you give each house a name. And that way you remember the top 3. So if you've picked 3 houses and she shows you 2 more and you say, well, I like this one more. Okay, which one are you dropping off the list? So obviously it's the 3rd one gets
Amazing
dropped.
method.
And it just worked. And every house, we had the Sens house. I remember looking at that. Being a diehard Leafs fan, that was a hard no.
Apples and oranges.
Apples and oranges was another one. We really liked that.
I still remember them.
And popcorn.
This was in 2005, and we still remember
them.
But that's how proven your method is.
Your method worked, and it helped us find because we walked into this one house. It had everything we wanted: the huge master bedroom, everything, but it had a small entryway. And she looked at me and said, "This house is amazing. It's what you're looking for. However, is that entryway what you want?" And I said, "No."
Or the other one where we walked in, and it was amazing because the upstairs was finished. Downstairs was finished. Upstairs was beautiful. Living room, dining room, and we're marveling over this place. And I hear, Bonnie, come here. And I walked to the back of the house into the kitchen, and she pegged it. It didn't have my kitchen. Yeah. Says, I know you really like this house, but let's leave.
That was it.
But that's because it was March when we first met you. It was July when we came on our house hunting trip, and there was that gap that was there, but you kept that contact. Yeah. You kept that contact, and you kept asking us. By the time we got here on a house hunting trip, she knew everything about us. It was amazing.
Because we emailed back quite a bit.
I remember.
You would ask questions, I'd give answers, that would generate more questions. And I found out that with Ken and Yetta Decker, it's that experience. Actually, I think I coined that phrase back in 2005. The Decker experience. The Decker experience.
Yeah.
And I said it was actually amazing. I said this is an amazing Decker experience, and we did that original testimonial at your mom and dad's place, and that was pretty cool.
So this isn't something that everybody has to endure. However, Bonnie and Ron were actually in Barrie. We were in Barrie, and that was in the days where we were just getting comfortable with, can we actually do video? Do we dare let someone else be our voice? Like, we were just concerned and unfamiliar and afraid and all of that sort of stuff. And so they actually met us at my mom and dad's house. They were in Barrie for something. We were in Barrie for something, which is where my mom and dad live. And in their living room, recorded our first ever client story. And I was looking for it because I would love to have that footage. I would love to have that footage, because even to put a little piece into this video portion would be so cool, or even just to put it out there. I can't find it. I'm very sad that it seems to have vanished through the years. And yet, what a gift that was.
It was fun.
And all these years later, we're still sharing the story. Yeah. And, the fact that Ron said they coined the Decker Team experience is kind of neat, because every good thing that we do to serve our clients really was created by a client from something they experienced, and they said, I would have liked this, or this worked really well, or I heard of this. And so we would then bring it into our process and our system. And yes, there's a process and a system. And the reason there has to be a process and a system, even though it's individualized to the person, continuous improvement, right? And continuous improvement. The reason there has to be a process and a system is because otherwise Ron and Bonnie and you wouldn't feel comfortable introducing us to other people because they wouldn't know what to expect. So there has to be a prescribed way of doing this thing. And after almost 30 years, we are still improving all the time. And the questions haven't changed much.
No, they haven't.
And the naming the houses hasn't changed much. And it's only the ones you like. So there is a name Ron didn't introduce to you. And that is, if you don't like the house, the name of the house is no.
Yeah, pretty much.
Simply no. And Bonnie suggested that, some houses we went in, we got started, and then we left before really seeing all of it. Totally good with that. Because otherwise it plugs your mind of stuff that you don't need to be plugged with.
That reminds me, you showed us that one house, and we pulled into the driveway. It was in Russell. And
Oh my.
Bonnie said,
That was the March trip.
nope, out of here.
We didn't even go in.
We didn't even go in the house, and she looked at you, and there was no animosity or anything, but Bonnie said, don't ever show me a house like that again. And that was the end of it.
I wasn't that mean.
Well, yeah, you were actually. But no, that's what you said.
Yeah.
But it was, and you looked at her, and there was no animosity or anything. She said, "Okay, fine, off the list." That was simple, and then we dropped it, and it was done, and we pressed on. Oh, I haven't because to this day I remember you looking at Yetta and saying, "Don't show me a house like that again."
Sorry. That's
but that's part of the experience.
Oh, you listened to us, though.
But
You did.
that's part of the experience, and I think that's what people need to do, is you need to listen to what people are saying. It's not necessarily about what they're not saying, or what they're saying, it's about what they're not saying. Right?
I was actually thinking that.
Yeah,
Ron.
it's because we didn't even have to go into that house. Bonnie just looked at it and said, no.
No. And there's really no point in being convinced or trying for someone to try and convince you to buy something that doesn't suit you. I mean, had I known that there was some big secret inside the house that I thought was going to turn it around, I would have pressed. So there's times where, because of what I know and because of the experiences of the houses that each of our team members have seen, we will say, hey, you know what? Can you just trust me on this one? Let's do this. And other times when I know what's behind the closed door and I know that there isn't going to be any redeeming qualities, and if we don't like the outside, then let's move on. And yet in the same breath, we want to be courteous to the seller. So if you're a seller listening and you're thinking, how would that work? Well, I still go in, I still leave my business card in the property. And then the feedback would simply be the exterior curb appeal didn't work for the client once they saw the setting and once they saw the surroundings. So we do our utmost to actually eliminate homes on the online search. Mm-hmm. And especially today, now I would say our average buyer only looks at 3 to 5 homes in person. A little more challenging when you're coming from out of area and you really need to spend a day driving areas and getting to know where you want to live. Slightly different conversation, but it's less about getting into houses that don't suit you, and it's more about only going into houses that you think could be the one. Because if you know it's not it, why go? Why waste your time? Why bog down your brain with things you're not going to buy?
Yeah, true.
And that's what the name game kind of helps.
It does.
Do, right?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that I still remember the 3 names is amazing.
It really is. And the rest were just no. Right? And then we bought the one that was number 1 because most people, and I always ask this question, are we buying 1, 2, or 3? How many would you like? Because if you'd like 3, we can name a few more than 3. But if you're only buying 1, then we really don't need to be naming more than 3.
That's true.
Because you're not going to buy your 4th or 5th choice. It's just not going to happen.
You're not.
And anybody who's in the Canadian Armed Forces as a whole, and we do our house hunting trips, you know what it's like to do a house hunting trip. I think we saw 13 to 15 houses in one day. We all know what that's about because those are the time restraints that we have to deal with.
Right.
It was a perfect method to get those 3, to name them and keep those, because each house just kind of melds into the next one. So
they do. And
it's
want
a
for that.
perfect method. Yeah.
And one of the things that we do have available for you, if you're thinking, boy, you guys have barely touched on this, there's so much more to be said. And I know, there is way more to be said because they have decades of experience and I have decades of experience. And we obviously can't share all that information with you in a few minutes. So one thing you can do if you want is you can go to our website. You can request a book that is Ottawa area home selling, buying, and investing. And it has loads of information in it that can help you move forward if you're thinking at some point of making a move or you're even relocating the city, because it's very specific to Ottawa. It's things that we've custom created based on our client experiences, and that's available free to you. It's an ebook and it's not a hard read. However, there's good insights in it that may just really help you as you move forward on your moving journey. So we are coming to the end, believe it or not. Like that was fast.
It's been fun.
Fast.
He did most of the talking. I just want to say that.
You heard it here first. So what is the one thing that you want to let whoever is listening, right, know so that they can have a great move and not feel, because I think what ended up happening is it became about not having anxiety. So that they do not feel anxiety, what do they need to know? What do they need to make sure they handle?
You go.
Go ahead.
Now they're both speechless. Don't you
Actually,
want it?
okay, I'm being polite.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying ladies
I
first
know,
and
I
all
know
that,
he's
but
being
you know,
polite.
maybe that's not cool these days. Communication.
Okay.
The biggest thing people need to do is talk to you. You need to ask questions, which you do. They need to give honest answers, and people need to communicate with your real estate agent. You need to talk to them. They need to talk to you, and yeah, I guess that's it. It's just communication, because without that communication, we would not have had the experience we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be honest in your communication.
Always honesty.
Yes.
Honesty.
Good point.
Like honesty. Don't ever show me a house like that again. Right? So.
Perfect. And I didn't and I won't. I promise.
Yeah, anxiety is not pleasant, but it's like Ron said, communicate. The team here they're amazing people. They have a proven method, and they always go that extra mile to make sure that your expectations are met. So
Cool. So if you kind of want to go on this journey, where we start is actually before we meet with you in the office, generally we have a phone conversation. And it eliminates some of the chaos right away, some of the anxiety right away, because we just have a conversation about what's important to you. What are you looking for? Less concerned about the actual house you're looking for initially, more concerned about what your expectations are from us as your realtor, and also have a frank conversation about what I expect from you, because it really is a partnership. Mm-hmm. The Decker team experience is really about the client communicating effectively with us and us listening overall. So if you want to go on that journey, whether you're staying in the city, moving to another city, because we've got great connections throughout the world, actually. Just had a client connect with me yesterday who was in Lisbon, says, I think I want to buy a house here. So I helped her get that handled, and she's got a great realtor there. So it doesn't matter where you're going. If you want to have a conversation, you know somebody that needs to have this conversation. Let's start with a chat on the phone. You can reach us at 613-863-6058. And thank you, guys.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Yetta.
You're always fun.
Always a pleasure.
You never know where it's going to go, except there is a beginning and an end in mind. You can trust that. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Cheers.